Winch, you have succeeded, right? You have succeeded in killing my husband. You know my husband left the house this evening because of you, right? Tomorrow morning, you will pack your things and leave my house, Nneka told Ijeoma with anger. Ijeoma had nowhere else to go. Her only option was to beg Auntie Nneka. She would have thought of calling Auntie Ebere, but she didn't have her number. That night, Ijeoma couldn't sleep. She thought of what will become of her the next day. The following day, very early in the morning, people, neighbors, and friends had already gathered in late Uncle Mike's house to console his family. Nneka continued crying and crying. She couldn't stop. Their children had already known what was happening, so they joined their mother in crying. Ijeoma made sure she cooked for them to eat. She cleaned and did everything. She made herself useful in the house, that Auntie Nneka forgot that she told her to leave the house that morning and never return, or maybe she said out of anger or grief that night. The next couple of days, which turned to months, in the household of Uncle Mike, was filled with sorrows and tears for Ijeoma. Meanwhile, Mazi Okeke had already called Auntie Amaka to come over to his house, since the 2 weeks he gave her had elapsed. He called her to bring forth his bread or return his money. Auntie Amaka tried to strike another deal with him. She promised to bring another girl to replace Ijeoma, but Mazi Okeke refused. In his words, he said which other girl will be as beautiful as Ijeoma? Auntie Amaka replied him, Mazi, the beautiful ones are yet to be born. So, you are saying that you will bring me a virgin girl that is more beautiful than Ijeoma, right? Well, how long would it take you to provide another virgin girl? Because time is of essence, Mazi Okeke asked. A little very time, she replied. A very little time is no time. Woman, give me time, Mazi Okeke asked angrily. A month or two, 2 months maximum. Well, I can see you are not serious, but you have a little baby which is growing really fast, Mazi Okeke said and giggled. Mazi, not my baby. We have been doing business for a very long time. You know how long it took me and my husband to deliver this baby girl. I promised to bring you another virgin girl. Please, don't take my daughter, Amaka pleaded. Then stick to your part of the deal. Or, like you said, the beautiful ones are not yet born, Mazi Okeke said and went upstairs, while his guard led Auntie Amaka outside the gates. The next few days, Auntie Ebere called Auntie Amaka to know about Ijeoma's welfare. But firstly, they exchanged pleasantries. How is my girl Ijeoma? Auntie Ebere asked. I wanted to call you about her. I thought she's in your house, Auntie Amaka said. My house? Why will she be in my house? Auntie Ebere asked. Ijeoma stole from me, and she ran away with everything I have. She ran away with my money, Auntie Amaka told Auntie Ebere. Auntie Ebere couldn't believe what she heard. Ijeoma will never steal. Meanwhile, it's been 2 months since after the burial of Uncle Mike, and Ijeoma still lives with Auntie Nneka. Auntie Nneka's brother, as Auntie Nneka introduced to Uncle Mike when he was still alive, came to stay with Nneka. Ijeoma was forced to share her food with the dog. She had no choice. She had nowhere to go to. She was maltreated, but she already got used to it. There were still scars on her back due to the beating she received from Auntie Nneka. Emeka, on the other hand, continued sleeping with Ijeoma. He turned her to his toy. He used her anytime he wants. Nneka doesn't even care when Ijeoma repeatedly told her about what Emeka does to her with tears. Every day in the house, she prayed that help comes her way. At that point, Auntie Nneka forced her to stop going to school. And she stopped. The next couple of months, since it was difficult for Auntie Amaka to provide another virgin for Mazi Okeke, she decided to run to another state with her family. You struck a deal with the devil himself. You know how Mazi Okeke is being feared in this town. You still made that deal with him. And now, you are telling me he's coming for our daughter. Like, what have you done? What have you done, woman? Amaka's husband asked Amaka. Babe, there is no time for this now. Let's just try and escape first. If we escape, then we will have all the time in the world to talk about this. Auntie Amaka said. The husband couldn't believe what was happening. He helped to pack up her bag. After they finished packing their clothes in the bag, about to escape, they were stopped by Mazi Okike's guards. Trying to run from me? Mazi Okike asked. Immediately he entered their living room and they went back inside. Chief, can you give us more time? I promise to pay, Amaka's husband said. I have given your wife more than enough time. At least I am just a man. I tried, didn't I try? Amaka, Mazi asked. You did, sir, she replied. What I hate in my life are dishonest people. You promised me a virgin, but you tried to escape from me now. Mazi asked. It is not what you think, sir, Amaka said. I have someone who will do just fine taking care of your baby. What is her name, Seth? Mazi asked Amaka. Not my baby, please, Amaka pleaded. What is her name? Mazi asked again. Ijeoma, sir, she said. Uche, carry the baby, Mazi said. I will take care of your baby. You have nothing to worry about, Mazi said and stood up to take his leave. Please, Mazi. Please, Chief. You know how far we've come, Amaka pleaded. And you of all people know how I don't like mixing business with pleasures, Mazi said. But Amaka held his shoe tight, still begging. Please, Mazi, be cool. Please don't take my daughter away from me. Please, Mazi. Please. But Mazi Okike paid deaf ears to all her plead and went out. Amaka screamed on top of her voice. Her husband was just silent. Ijeoma, my baby. She cried for many hours. She refused to stand from the ground where she sat. After hours of crying, she finally wiped her tears and promised herself to do whatever in her powers to catch Ijeoma and return her to Mazi Okike in order to rescue her own daughter, Ijeoma. Meanwhile, Ijeoma continued living in Auntie Nneka's house for another years. She was still maltreated. Nneka's brother, Okulu, was already living with them. Ijeoma later discovered that the man in question wasn't Nneka's brother. He was the father of her last child, God's gift. Ijeoma came back one afternoon and met Auntie Nneka and brother Okuru making out. Brother Okuru was the man Auntie Nneka introduced to late Uncle Mike as her brother. When she saw what was happening, she didn't say a word. She couldn't dare. When she was sent to fetch water, she sometimes met with her school friend Chinedu. Chinedu asked her one day why she stopped coming to school. She told him that Uncle Mike was dead and he was the one paying her school fees. Chinedu promised to help her out one day. Emeka, on the other hand, continued forcing himself on Ijeoma. Ijeoma was 17 years old now. She was washing the clothes of the whole family when she quickly ran beside the wall to vomit. When Auntie Nneka saw her, she immediately knew she was pregnant. You this spoilt girl, you have finally succeeded in getting pregnant under my roof, right? Auntie Nneka said to her. She beat Ijeoma for getting pregnant. Who is the father of this bastard in your stomach? Auntie Nneka finally asked Ijeoma. It is Emeka, Ijeoma said. Emeka, my son? Auntie Nneka asked her, acting all surprised. Ijeoma said yes. Auntie Nneka called Emeka. Emeka, Ijeoma said you got her pregnant. Do you know anything about it? Nneka asked her son. No, mommy. This girl is accusing me wrongly. I don't even talk to her that much. Why will I now get her pregnant? Emeka said. You have heard him. So, why are you accusing my son wrongly? Auntie Nneka asked Ijeoma. Auntie, I am telling the truth, Ijeoma said. Anyways, whatever, you will not have this bastard in your stomach in this house. That is, if you still want to continue living with us. This evening, you will follow me to somewhere where you will remove this bastard growing in your stomach. Auntie, are you saying we will abort my unborn child? Ijeoma asked. Are you deaf? You are aborting it this night, Auntie Nneka said angrily. Auntie Nneka told Ijeoma to follow her to a doctor that will carry out the abortion. Ijeoma quietly followed her to the doctor's house, in which the abortion was to be carried out. After minutes of the process, the doctor was finally done. Ijeoma laid on the chair with her eyes closed and tears already circulating all over her face. The doctor met with Auntie Nneka outside. "Did you hit her while she was pregnant?" the doctor asked Auntie Nneka. "Hit her how?" Nneka asked, confused. "During the abortion process, I noticed a contraction due to several hits," the doctor said. "So, what are you trying to say?" Auntie Nneka asked the doctor. "I am afraid, but she lost her womb. The young lady in there will not be able to bear a child again," the doctor told Auntie Nneka. Ijeoma was close to the door eavesdropping when this conversation was going on. Immediately she heard she won't be able to bear a child again. Tears came out of her eyes. She returned back to the chair she was sitting before. The doctor and Auntie Nneka came into the room. "Let's go," Auntie Nneka told Ijeoma. "When you get home tonight, you will rest a little while," Auntie Nneka said. Auntie Nneka noticed the constant stare from Ijeoma. "Is there a problem?" Auntie Nneka asked. "No, Auntie," Ijeoma replied. They continued walking home. "Auntie, did the doctor tell you anything that I should know?" Ijeoma asked. "Anything like what? Seems like you are now mature to be questioning me, right?" Auntie Nneka asked. "Nothing, just that your face hasn't been good since we came out of the doctor's house." Auntie Nneka was quiet. The rest of the journey back home was a quiet one. When they got home, Ijeoma went to her room to sleep. That same night became a very long night for Ijeoma. While everyone was fast asleep, she took some of her clothes and ran out of the house. She was really miserable in that house, especially after Uncle Mike died. She was maltreated with that regard. It was better she ran for her dear life before she gets killed. She was already 17 and she knew what was good for her or not. Chinedu, her former schoolmate, told her to come stay with him. Chinedu also suffered in the hands of his guardian, but now he lived alone and was doing well for himself, even at the young age. Few months ago, when he last saw Ijeoma, was when she went to the market to buy foodstuff. He gave her a small phone to call him whenever she needed his help. Ijeoma has been safeguarding the phone like her life depends on it. That night, after the abortion, was the night she made up her mind to call Chinedu. As she ran for her life, she tried calling his number, which was the only number on the phone. But there was a little network issue. She kept trying the number. She tried and tried before the number finally went through. "IJ," as Chinedu fondly called her. "What is the problem?" he asked over the phone. "I need your help," Ijeoma said, panting heavily. "This night?" he asked. "Yes," Ijeoma replied. "Isn't it too late for you to need my help?" Chinedu asked. "I escaped from my auntie's house. I don't have anywhere else to go," Ijeoma said. "Okay, where are you?" Chinedu asked her. She told him the address and he took Uber to come and pick her up. Chinedu took Ijeoma to his rented apartment. Throughout the drive back to his apartment, Ijeoma didn't say a word. She just laid her head on Chinedu's shoulder. Chinedu saw how tired Ijeoma was. When they reached his house, he took her in. Chinedu asked Ijeoma what happened, but Ijeoma was quiet and not wanting to say anything. "I am sorry, but you need to rest. Feel at home," Chinedu said. "You can sleep on the bed while I sleep in the living room," Chinedu said. He took her to the bedroom. "Have a good night's sleep, but we will talk about everything tomorrow," Chinedu said to her. "Thank you," Ijeoma replied, as he stood up from the bed to go to the living room. "Nedu," Ijeoma called. Chinedu turned to her. "How did you get all this money? The house, the money, and the phone that you gave me the other day? Like, if I can remember, you said you were an orphan like me, and just slightly older than me. How did you do it?" Ijeoma asked, being curious. Chinedu smiled. "Ijeoma, you don't need to know everything. Why not leave this question for another day? Just rest and sleep well for tonight," Chinedu said to her and went to the living room. Auntie Nneka woke up very early the following morning, as usual, to go wake Ijeoma up to start the morning chores. But to her surprise, when she went to Ijeoma's room, it was wide open and she wasn't inside. Ijeoma, Ijeoma, she screamed her name, but there was no response. She went to the kitchen, the toilets, everywhere in the house, but Ijeoma wasn't found. She called her son Emeka. "Have you seen Ijeoma today?" she asked him. "No, mommy, I haven't. Please stop disturbing me. I am still sleeping. It is too early to be shouting," Emeka said and went back to sleep. Auntie Nneka searched all her belongings to be sure no one was gone. She wondered where Ijeoma would have gone to. She thought to herself, that morning there was no one to do the house chores, as her children have grown lazy over the years, and the plate from last night was still in the sink, and their dirty clothes were in the big basket to be washed. Ijeoma stayed in Chinedu's house for a very long time. He treated her like a princess. Ijeoma lacked nothing with her time staying with Chinedu, but even at that, she became worried because, unlike Uncle Mike, she doesn't see Chinedu going to work, but he was still able to feed her and himself. One afternoon, Ijeoma decided to ask Chinedu. She asked Chinedu how he makes his money, but Chinedu refused to say nothing. Chinedu laughed and said, "What if it's a man job?" Chinedu asked her, "Nedu, you are supposed to know me by now. I have seen hell, and besides, what a man can do, a woman can do better." Ijeoma replied, "What a man can do, a woman can do better." Ijeoma asked, "You don't have to worry yourself. What you need now is a good food and a shelter over your head, and that is what I'm giving you, without complaining." Chinedu replied, "I want to work too." Ijeoma said, "IJ, this is a man's work. It is no small job. You don't want to be involved." Chinedu said, "Is that why you dropped out of school?" Ijeoma asked him, "I have no one to pay my school fees, so I had to drop out." Chinedu said, "But you have made money now. You can as well go back to school." "Well, my mind is not cut out for school anymore. I can't deal with school academics, exam now. I'm fine where I am. Meanwhile, since we are talking about school, why don't you go back to school?" Chinedu told Ijeoma. "Where will I see the money to go back to school?" Ijeoma replied, "I'll pay the bills," he said. "Chinedu, I can't pay you back. Who is telling you to pay me back? I am just helping you like my sister," Chinedu said. Meanwhile, Auntie Amaka, on the other hand, was already having a misunderstanding with her husband because of the way their baby was taken away from them like a collateral. "I told you not to do business with that man. We all know him in this town. He's the devil himself, but you still went ahead to do it anyways. It's been 4 years our baby has been taken away from us, and you still haven't said anything," the husband shouted. "What do you want me to say, John? What do you want me to say? Are you not the man of this house? If you had provided enough for us, would I have run to Mazi Okeke for business? Would I have?" Auntie Amaka responded, "So you now blame your high taste of money and material things on me. If you didn't want all these luxury things, would you have been here? Don't let me get started with you," the husband said. "What will you do, John, what will you do?" Auntie Amaka shouted. "I don't have time for this nonsense," John said and went to the bedroom to carry some of his clothes. He arranged the clothes and put it in his bag. "Are you leaving me?" Auntie Amaka asked. "I will not sit here and watch you insult me," the husband said. "Baby, please don't leave me. Don't leave me, please. I am so sorry. I'll be miserable if you go." Auntie Amaka pleaded with her husband. "I need some time to clear my head," the husband said and left the house. Ijeoma and Chinedu were in the house watching TV one afternoon when they heard a knock on the door. Ijeoma went to open the door and it was the police. "How can I help you?" she asked the police. "Is this the house of Chinedu Okonkwo?" the police asked her. "Yes. What is the problem?" she asked them. Immediately Chinedu heard it was the police. He stood up to run, but the police forced their way in and caught up with him. "What is going on?" Ijeoma asked Chinedu. "You are under arrest for the robbery of Chief Amechi Chukwu and the rape of his daughter." Anything you say or do here will be used against you in the court of law. Your friend Nonso has been apprehended, the police said, and handcuffed Chinedu. Ijeoma stood still in the living room in shock as she watched the police take Chinedu away. Ijeoma was surprised and in shock to hear that Chinedu was an armed robber and a rapist. When she heard rapist, her mind went back to remember everything Emeka did to her while living in their house, how he molested her at a very young age. She followed the officers to the station just to know where they are taking Chinedu to. Meanwhile, Aunty Nneka became the one taking care of the house choice responsibilities. She cooked, cleaned and did everything. It's been 2 years since Ijeoma ran out of the house. Uche, her sugar boy, who she brought home when she lost her husband, stole most of her money and ran away with it, leaving her with just little to feed from. Emeka wasn't able to go back to school because of his friends' influence. Just the second son and their last daughter was still going to school. The last daughter was in SS3. Emeka came back late from where he went to hang out with his friends. Most of the times, he brought his female friends home. Even when his mother is around, he didn't have any respect for his mother. His mother was already getting scared of him because he has turned into a drug addict. The little money left for his mother, he stole them sometimes. Aunty Nneka lived in regret for not training her children right. Aunty Amaka still hasn't heard from her husband. For the past 2 years, he left the house. She was already feeling depressed, knowing how hard it was for her to give birth, and Mazi Okeke took away her child like a collateral. One evening, while she was at home crying her eyes out, she decided to stand up and go get her daughter from Mazi Okeke, either by peace or by war. She got to Mazi Okeke's house and kept knocking. "Mazi, I want my daughter." She kept knocking and knocking until the gateman opened the gate, and Mazi Okeke, from his upstairs, asked her what the problem was. Aunty Amaka said she wants her daughter and she was not going to live without her. Mazi Okeke smiled at her. "Do you now have my money, woman, and know that the worth of my money has increased by 20%. Mazi said to her, "I don't have your money and I am not living without my daughter," Aunty Amaka said. Mazi Okeke told his boys to bundle her out of his house, and she kept struggling with them. One of them gave her a dirty slap on the right cheek. Meanwhile, the following day, Ijeoma went to the station to hear what Chinedu wanted to say about the whole situation. "Is it true?" she asked Chinedu. Immediately she saw him. "I thought that man, yes, but I did it because of this country time I had. I had to survive," Chinedu said. "What about his daughter?" Ijeoma asked Chinedu. "I didn't do it. My friend also raped her. I told him not to do that, but he did it anyways. I am sorry for making you doubt me," Chinedu said. "So what are you going to do now?" Ijeoma asked him. "I don't know. I will leave it to my fate," Chinedu said. "I don't know if I'm ever coming out of here. IJ, I might be in prison for the rest of my life. Whatever may happen, go to my wardrobe. You will find something there. Use it to start a life. I love you," Chinedu said. Just then, the officer stopped them from talking any further. "Simon," the officer said, and took Chinedu away. Ijeoma's eyes was filled with tears. The one person that had only shown her nothing but love was taken away from her. As she walked out of the police station, she wondered if she was cursed. Maybe there was something about her she knows nothing about. Maybe that's why nobody that truly showed her love lasted in her life. She walked home and went to the wardrobe as Chinedu told her. She went through the wardrobe. What she saw shocked her. She saw a bag filled with money that could set her up rich for the rest of her life. Her heart began to beat fast. What was she going to do? Because for sure, she knew the money was stolen. She touched the money and wondered in confusion if she should take it back to the police or use it for herself. It's been 5 years since Ijeoma relocated to Enugu State. She tried all she could to save Chinedu, but it didn't work. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for series of charges. Life has been good to Ijeoma. She opened a thriving restaurant in Enugu, and the best for that matter. People questioned the source of her wealth. Some said she was too young to own such a big restaurant. Others said she was into hookup, but she paid deaf ears to all of them. She was 23 years, and each day of her life, before she goes to bed, she checked on her skin in the mirror. She remembered everything she passed through. During her stay with Auntie Nneka, the scars she got due to the beating from Auntie Nneka were still very visible at her back. Meanwhile, Auntie Nneka kept living in regret for the rest of her life. Her children became wayward. There was a time she shouted at her first son Emeka. Emeka got angry and hit her. That day, she cried her eyes out. She regretted not training her children well. One day, while she was cleaning the toilet, Auntie Nneka slipped and fell. There was no one at home to help her. For more than 4 hours, no one came to her stand. In the evening, when her daughter came back home, she went to the toilet to pee and saw her mother lying helplessly on the floor. She called the neighbors to come help her. The neighbor rushed Auntie Nneka to the hospital. Meanwhile, Auntie Amaka had already become a lost soul, just waiting for the day death will come knocking at her door. From the way she is, none of her old friends will still recognize her when they see her. Every day in her room, she cried her eyes out. News has it that her husband later got married to another woman, and that broke her completely. He said he needed space not to marry another woman. She said, crying in her bedroom. All she wanted to do was to end it all. Life became a full misery for Auntie Amaka. One day, Ijeoma decided to serve food to her customers in the restaurant by herself. When her beauty caught this special customer who came to eat in the restaurant alone. "Hello, my name is Gozie," the customer told Ijeoma as she came to take his order. "Hi, I am Ijeoma," Ijeoma replied. "IJ restaurant," Gozie said. "Why are you taking orders by yourself?" he asked. "I just felt like doing it today, to get to know my customer," Ijeoma replied. "I see," Gozie said. "I don't know if I am being too forward, but I would also like to know you more," Gozie said and smiled. Ijeoma blushed. "I saw what you did there," she said. "Can I get your phone number so that I can take you out sometimes?" Gozie asked. "Not too fast. There are other customers waiting. Can I take your order now? We'll talk some other time," Ijeoma said. "No problem," Gozie said, and she took his orders. Ijeoma was busy for the rest of the day. In the evening, during her closing time, Gozie came back to her restaurant. "Are you stalking me?" Ijeoma said immediately she saw Gozie. "No, nothing like that. I just came to take you home." "Who told you I don't have a car?" Ijeoma asked him. "I know you don't. I haven't seen you with one before," Gozie said. "So you have been stalking me?" Ijeoma asked him. "I couldn't resist you," he said. "I'll call an Uber." Ijeoma said. "IJ, I don't bite. I just want to take you home," Gozie said. Immediately she heard IJ, she took a deep breath. The only person that ever called her that was Chinu, who is now spending his life in prison. "Please, Gozie," said. After much persuasion from Gozie, Ijeoma finally gave in and Gozie drove her home in his Camry car. After that day, they went on several dates. In less than 3 months, they already started dating officially. A year later, Gozie made the perfect proposal arrangement and invited Ijeoma over. They were alone in the living room when Gozie went down on his knee and asked Ijeoma to marry him. "Ijeoma Ejike, will you marry me?" Gozie asked her, feeling nervous and smiling. Ijeoma was super excited. That day was the happiest day of her life. She wanted to say yes, but immediately she remembered the flashback of how she lost her womb when Auntie Nneka forced her to abort the pregnancy she had for her son, Emeka. Tears dropped down her eyes in the presence of her engagement. "Baby, what is it?" Gozie asked, still on one knee. No, I can't marry you." "I am sorry," Ijeoma said. "Why? What did I do to you? Did I do something wrong?" Gozie asked. "No," Ijeoma screamed and ran out of the engagement room. Gozie was really heartbroken. Ijeoma ran out of the engagement room crying. She took a taxi and left to her home. Gozie was left confused in the engagement room. Did he do anything wrong? Many thoughts ran through his mind. He immediately ran to catch up with Ijeoma, but before he got to the road, Ijeoma had already entered a taxi and drove off. He stayed in the middle of the road with his right hand on his head, his left hand on his waist. Just then, his phone rang. It was his friend Nzube calling. "Bro, how did the engagement go?" Nzube asked him over the phone with excitement. "Bro, she didn't accept the proposal." His friend Nzube told him to give her some time to cool off. "Tomorrow, go and ask her what the problem is," Nzube advised Gozie. Gozie listened to Nzube's advice and waited till the next day to go meet Ijeoma. Ijeoma cried the whole night that day in her room, hoping that Gozie would come for her. At the same time, thinking how hard it is to say and accept the truth. "Why me?" she asked herself with tears all over her face. The next day, Gozie went over to Ijeoma's house. He knocked and knocked, but Ijeoma paid deaf ears. She said she wasn't in the mood to talk, but Gozie was persistent. After a couple of minutes, Ijeoma came over to open the door. "I told you I needed time to clear my head, Gozie," Ijeoma said as she opened the door for him. "Why are you pushing me away, Ijeoma? I want us together. My life will not be complete without you," Gozie said. "I can't marry you," Ijeoma said. "Why? I love you," Gozie said. "I have no womb," Ijeoma forcefully said. There was a bit of silence in the room as they both entered the living room. "You have no womb?" Gozie asked to be sure. "I can't give you a child, Gozie." "Who would marry a wombless woman?" Ijeoma asked. "You never told me," Gozie said. "I was scared. I was scared that you wouldn't accept me," Ijeoma said. Gozie was speechless for some minutes. He lacked what to say. "You are not saying anything, Gozie," Ijeoma said. "I don't know what to say," Gozie said. He took a deep breath. "How did it happen?" he asked her. Ijeoma explained everything to him, how her madam's son molested her when she was still very young, and how she was forced to abort the baby, thereby losing her womb. Gozie felt really sorry for her, but he encouraged her to take her bath for the day. "I will just go and prepare to work now," Gozie said and left to his house that day. Ijeoma noticed how Gozie left. It was not like him. At that moment, she knew that Gozie would not proceed with the marriage arrangements. Nevertheless, she accepted her fate. Gozie went home that day and cried his eyes out. The only woman that has truly loved him as much as he loved her was wombless. What was he going to do? He went to his minibar and brought out a bottle of alcoholic wine and poured some for himself. He sipped the wine slowly as he remembered how his mother had always yearned for a grandchild, especially for the fact that he was the only son. He drank in his room and became drunk. That day, he didn't go to work. For the next couple of weeks, Gozie didn't go to work. Ijeoma kept calling him, but he didn't speak. Ijeoma knew it was over. There was no need loving him. She can't be able to give birth, and the only person that caused her wombless was still moving around. That moment, she made the vow to end Emeka, Nneka's first son, the boy that raped and caused her wombless. She thought of many ways to end him, and killing him with a gun was the best idea she got. Ijeoma already made up her mind to end Emeka. Even if it was the last thing she does, she bought a gun from someone. That day, after crying, she took a few drinks and took a taxi that would take her to Asaba, where Emeka stays. Gozie was still in his house. He was trying to figure out which decision to take. Why must life always be complicated? He thought to himself. He was already high on alcohol when his friend Nzube came into his house. "Guy Alpha, why haven't you been to work for the past week?" Nzube asked. Immediately he entered the apartment. He didn't realize Gozie was a bit drunk at the moment until he got close to him. Gozie told Nzube everything that was going on. Nzube suggested an idea and asked Gozie if they have done tests, but Gozie said no. Uzube suggested that he should drive to Ijeoma's house to do the test. On reaching to Ijeoma's apartment, he knocked and knocked, but there was no reply. He remembered he had a spare key to her apartment, so he opened the door. There was no one inside. He checked around the house, but Ijeoma wasn't around. He then saw a piece of paper on the table. He went close to the paper and he took it up and read it. Dear Gozie, if you ever come and find this letter, just know that I love you so much. I have accepted my fate and I am on my way to end this misery. But first, I must end the person that put me in this misery. The letter was written with so much pain. Gozie immediately dropped the letter. He locked Ijeoma's apartment and called his friend Uzube to meet him at the next junction. He drove as fast as he could. Uzube was already at the junction waiting for him. Bro, what is the problem? Uzube asked. We are going to Asaba to save my woman, Gozie said as he drove to Asaba. I can't forgive myself if anything ever happens to Ijeoma. Gozie said, take it easy. Uzube kept advising him as they drive to Asaba. It was a long journey from Enugu to Asaba. Ijeoma always told Gozie about what her house in Asaba looked like. She had once told him the address when they were discussing and how Uncle Mike was so good to her. And even the night Uncle Mike died, when he had a quarrel with his wife Nneka. They finally reached Asaba after a few hours, and Uzube helped asking some passerby the address his friend told him. After a series of asking, they finally got to the address of Auntie Nneka. On reaching the address, they saw Ijeoma coming out of the house crying. Immediately, Gozie stopped the car, came out of the car, and rushed to Ijeoma. I couldn't do it, Ijeoma said. Immediately she saw Gozie. I am proud of you, Ijeoma. Gozie said, we shouldn't take revenge into our hands. Gozie said and hugged Ijeoma again. Ijeoma explained everything to Gozie as they drove to Asaba Market, where Ijeoma said she wanted Gozie to drive her to. When I reached there, I found Emeka with a lady. They were having sex while the mom was around. He has been spoiled. I had the gun pointed at him. I could have pulled the trigger, but I couldn't do it. And Auntie Nneka was looking malnourished. I couldn't do it, Ijeoma said. You did the right thing, Ijeoma. Uzube said. Thank you, Zubi, Ijeoma replied. They went to the market and bought items from the market. They bought beans, rice, oil, and many more. They took it back to Auntie Nneka. Auntie Nneka was surprised to see Ijeoma back with all the food items. She thanked Ijeoma and asked for her forgiveness. Ijeoma gave her some money to take care of herself. They drove back to the hotel and spent the night there. Uzube and Gozie booked a room for themselves while Ijeoma stayed in another room. Later, Gozie went to Ijeoma's room. He knocked and Ijeoma told him to come in. He sat beside Ijeoma and they began to discuss. Why did you come? Ijeoma asked Gozie. You know I would have come, Gozie said. I was hoping. I didn't know, Ijeoma said. I was hoping we go for a test. Gozie said. What's changed? Nothing will change. I am woundless, Ijeoma said. We don't know for sure. You haven't conducted a test, Gozie said. So if we conduct this test and I still can't give birth, what's next? Ijeoma asked. Gozie held her hands and looked at her eyes. What's next is that I will marry you. And if we need a child, we will adopt as many children as we want. Ijeoma put out her hand. You can't be serious, Ijeoma said. I have never been more serious in my life, Ijeoma, Gozie said and took back her hands. I can't do this called life without you. Allow me to stand by you. Ijeoma, allow me to be the man for you. I love you like crazy, Gozie said and looked deep into Ijeoma's eyes as if he was looking for something in it. Then he gave her the most passionate kiss ever. Ijeoma couldn't resist. They were already deep in the moment. Then they felt that they heard a knock on the door. They pulled out immediately. Let's go for test tomorrow then, Ijeoma said, and Gozie stood up from the bed. See you tomorrow then, Gozie said as they tried to hug each other, but they didn't. The next day, they drove back to Enugu. They were exhausted from the journey. They rested that day and went to the hospital a day later to carry out the test. After the test, the doctor told them to exercise patience. Hours later, he came out with the test results. Congratulations, Ijeoma Ejike. You are good. There is nothing wrong with your womb. You can deliver your own baby, the doctor said, smiling as he handed over the test result to Ijeoma. Gozie immediately hugged Ijeoma and thanked the doctor. Their joy and excitement knew no bounds. Ijeoma was excited when the doctor told them that she could carry her own child in her womb. Gozie's excitement was beyond this world. As they drove back home, Gozie asked her what she would like to eat. Ijeoma told him to calm down first, but he insisted on making a special meal for her. Her favorite food was jollof rice and chicken. He drove to the market first of all and bought all he needed to celebrate this good news. From the market, he drove home. After, he changed his clothes in his bathroom and he headed to the kitchen to prepare the meal. An hour later, he was done cooking and he came out and served the food in the dining. You mean business, oh? Ijeoma said and blushed. Anything for my queen, Gozie said. This one that you are more excited than I am. Hope no problem. Ijeoma said, come on now. Don't I have the right to be happy again? Gozie asked. Okay, Ijeoma said as she prayed and went about to eat. Babe, so when are we doing our wedding? Gozie asked. Ijeoma dropped the food she had already carried in spoon back to the plate. Which wedding? She asked. Our wedding now, Gozie said. When did I accept to marry you, this man? Ijeoma asked him. Gozie brought out the ring again. Ijeoma Ejike, will you do me the honor to be the bone of my bone, the flesh of my flesh, my lovely wedded wife, the mother of my unborn children? Gozie said with one knee on the ground. There was a bit of silence in the room. Well, I will think about it, Ijeoma said, blushing. Please now, Gozie said. Okay, I will marry you, Gozie Kelechi, Ijeoma said as she helped him stand up and they both kissed. I am hungry. Let me eat, Ijeoma said after a few seconds of kissing. She had the first test. Guy, you can cook. Your wife no go do guy for you. Ijeoma says Gozie. I know, right? Gozie said. A few months' time, they planned for their wedding and got married. There was no time to waste. Ijeoma began having the perfect life she ever wished for. Life was sweet for Ijeoma. Life became fair for Ijeoma. Everything she ever dreamed of as a child, she started having them. A year after they got married, Ijeoma got pregnant, and that became the perfect gift life has ever given to her, the joy to carry her own child. When Gozie heard the news of his wife being pregnant, he became the happiest man alive. He didn't for once allow Ijeoma overstress herself. Do you want to stress my baby? He always tell Ijeoma when he saw her overworking herself. Life was perfect. Life was good. One night, Ijeoma and Gozie was having a late night talk. They were trying to come up with the most pleasant name for their baby. If it was a boy, we shall name him Ifeanyi, Gozie said, rubbing Ijeoma's belly. If it is a girl, we shall call her Ifunanya, Ijeoma said. Alright then, Gozie accepted. He lifted her hands up and he kissed her. I love you, Gozie said. I love you more, Ijeoma replied. 9 months later, Ijeoma went to labor in the night. That night became the most confused and happiest moment for Gozie, as it was his first time being a father. He drove gently and at the same time fast to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, the nurse hurriedly came outside to take Ijeoma to the labor room. Gozie was restless. He was walking up and down in the hospital, praying his wife delivers safely. After hours of impatiently waiting, the doctor finally came out of the labor room smiling. Congratulations, Mr. Gozie Kelechi. It is a boy and a girl. You are now a father of twins. Gozie hugged the doctor in excitement. Thank you, doctor, he said. Can I see my wife and babies now? He asked. Wait for a few minutes for the nurse to finish up, the doctor said. Minutes later, Gozie went to the ward his wife was in and he was like, baby, I am so proud of you. You did it, Gozie said. I love you so much, Gozie said and kissed her forehead. He went close to where the babies were and he laid his hand on them. Ifunanya and Ifeanyi, he called their names. He went back to his wife and continued to gist with her. After a few minutes, Ijeoma complained of not feeling too fine. What is it, baby? Gozie asked her. I don't know. I don't feel too well. Then she started breathing too fast. Doctor! Doctor! Gozie screamed out, and the doctor came to their ward immediately. And the nurse followed and led Gozie out. Gozie was restless. Minutes later, the doctor came out of the ward with a sad face. Doctor, no, Gozie said. She lost a lot of blood, the doctor said. We lost her. I am sorry, the doctor said. No, doctor, I want my wife, Gozie said, holding the doctor tight. There is nothing I can do, the doctor said. Gozie sat on the floor and held the doctor's shoe. Doctor, I want my wife back, Gozie said. 10 minutes later, Gozie was still holding the doctor and didn't allow him to go. Doctor, doctor, one of the nurses rushed out. She just made a pause. The nurse said, a pause? The doctor asked to be sure. What is going on, doctor? Gozie asked confused. Mr. Gozie, you will have to let me go now to go and see what is going on, the doctor said and went back to Ijeoma's ward. 30 minutes later, Gozie was called back into the ward. Mr. Gozie Kelechi, I have never seen something like this before in all my 15 years of being a doctor. I mean, your wife just came back to life. This is a miracle, the doctor said. Gozie used the back of his hands to wipe his tears. The news of Ijeoma coming back to life had spread all over Enugu. No one could tell who started the news. The radio station were already talking about it. Soon, the news reached the TV station and it was heard all over Nigeria. Auntie Ebere watched the news from Lagos. Auntie Ebere was Ijeoma's neighbor when she was very small. She was the one taking care of Ijeoma when Ijeoma's father was sick. And even until Ijeoma's father's death, she took care of Ijeoma until she relocated to Lagos to start up a life and eventually got married. She has been looking for Ijeoma for the past 14 years. She called Auntie Amaka severally, but Auntie Amaka told her that Ijeoma stole from her and ran away. Auntie Ebere didn't believe the news. When the news of Ijeoma started flying all over the TV and radio station, she knew it was Ijeoma, and without hesitating, she prepared to fly down to Enugu State to see Ijeoma. She flew down to Enugu and went straight to the hospital to meet Ijeoma. Ijeoma was already regaining back her strength. When she saw Auntie Ebere, she immediately recognized her. Auntie Ebere, Ijeoma said and stood up right on the bed. I have been looking for you all these years. I called your auntie, your father's stepsister. She said things that I don't understand. I never thought I would see you again until I saw the news, Auntie Ebere said. Ijeoma explained everything to Auntie Ebere. How Auntie Amaka tried to marry her off to an old man at the age of 13 and how she ran away from Auntie Amaka's house. The next day, Ijeoma was discharged from the hospital and she went back home with her twins. Gozie was super excited. Auntie Ebere also followed them home. Auntie Ebere stayed for the Omugo since Ijeoma had no one else to do that. She took care of the twins. Auntie Ebere herself in the last 13 years has 4 children already. She discussed all this with Ijeoma. A month later, Ijeoma and Gozie announced their child dedication and it made the news headline again. Ijeoma was already a mini celebrity. That day, Auntie Amaka was watching TV. When she saw Ijeoma's picture on TV, she felt embarrassed and ashamed of herself for what she had done to her brother's child. She was already in a depressed state, looking older than her age. She then decided to go to Ijeoma's house on the day of her child dedication and asked for forgiveness. It was already the day for Ijeoma's twins' dedication. Her and her husband wore matching outfits with the twins. Auntie Ebere stayed with the twins at the back seat of the car. That day, The whole neighborhood attended the twins' dedication and special Thanksgiving of Ijeoma. The church was filled with people, both invited and non-invited guests. Some guests had to stay outside the church because there was no space to contain all of them. At the end of the program, Ijeoma and Gozie invited everyone to their house for the reception. The reception that day was the talk of the town. People ate and had merry. Big people of different calibers came for the reception. Some sent gifts, money and all. Speaker of the State House was present in the reception. Secretary to the government of Enugu State was present in the reception. On behalf of the governor, the secretary gave the twins scholarship to university level. There was little or no space in Ijeoma's compound. People were curious to know how she overcame death, but she had already given the testimony in church that God just wanted her to be alive and take care of her children. Her mother died during her birth. Her father died when she was 12. It was only right for her to stand strong for her babies. As she was receiving gifts from guests, what she saw shocked her. It was her stepfather's sister, Auntie Amaka. She was looking malnourished. Amaka immediately asked for the microphone from the mic. "Now I know why I am still alive," she said as she used the mic. "I am alive today so that you, Ijeoma, would forgive me of all the things I did to you." Everyone in the reception ground now concentrated on Auntie Amaka. "I plead for your forgiveness," Auntie Amaka said in the reception ground, and tears followed as she knelt down before Ijeoma. Ijeoma forgave Auntie Amaka. Auntie Amaka thanked her and told her all she went through when Ijeoma escaped, how her husband left her, and how the old man Maziu Keke, she wanted to marry her off, collected her daughter from her because she couldn't pay the debt and provide another virgin for him to marry. That day was the happiest day for Ijeoma. At the end of the reception, everyone went home. Auntie Amaka also went back to Onitsha. Auntie Ebere stayed for Omugo over 4 months. At the end of her stay, Gozie made sure she went back to Lagos with a lot of gifts and goodies for her children. Auntie Ebere promised that when next she was coming, she would come with her children so they would get to know Ijeoma. Gozie and Ijeoma drove Auntie Ebere to the airport. "Please greet your husband for me," Ijeoma said. They waited until her flight took off. Ifunanya and Ifeanyi grew strong and brilliant. "My blessings," as Ijeoma fondly called them. "What would you want to be in future?" Ijeoma asked Ifunanya when she turned 7. "Mommy, I want to be a writer," Ifunanya responded. "What about you, Ifeanyi?" Ijeoma asked. "I would want to be a doctor," he replied. Ijeoma trained her children so well that they confided in her. They took her as their best friend. Gozie wouldn't ask for a more better family. Every day, he'd thank God for his family. When Ijeoma became 55, she called her daughter Ifunanya, who was 21 years old and was about to go for her youth service. They had this mother and daughter conversation. That was when Ijeoma decided to tell her daughter her life story. As Ijeoma Ejike, she told her daughter all she passed through in life to be where she was today. "Make me a promise, Ada. Make me a promise that when I am no more, you will tell the world my story. You will tell them the story I told you today in order to motivate them not to give up. The road may be rough, but our destination is bright," Ijeoma said. She also encouraged that one shouldn't give up. Failing is not our final destination. We might fail 1 or 2 times, but victory is achievable at the end. "Okay," Ifunanya replied. "Mom, are you okay? Are you sick?" the daughter asked. "I am not sick," Ijeoma said. "My writer, I just want you to tell my story in a book when I am no more," Ijeoma said, smiling. That day, Ifunanya made promise to write her mother's story in a book when she was no more. Ijeoma Ejike died at the age of 83 years old as a great-grandmother. Her daughter Ifunanya, whom she sees as her best friend, wrote and published this story. Ijeoma. Please, if you like our story, hit the like button, subscribe, drop your comments, tell us what you learned from this story, and please do not forget to share this story to your family and loved ones. See you in the next story. Bye.